prison down to Donovan because that captain was previously at High Desert with that Mexican mafia member. Apparently they became buddies, man. Apparently they became buddies, and he told the warden, hey, let me bring down this guy and I'm going to let him run this yard for us. Control the sureños.
No.
So that's what happened. But he had an open door policy with that captain. He would literally walk past the sergeant's office, walk past that lieutenant's office, blow him off disrespectfully, and go have closed door meetings with that captain in the back, which was shady. So the officers didn't have no power, authority. The sergeant didn't have no authority, and the lieutenant didn't. It was all between the Mexican mafia member and that captain. Well, eventually, the train crashed, man, and it resulted in 6 officers getting assaulted, 2 brutally stabbed, man. Bad, dude. Freaking bad. Attempted murders. And you would think, okay, now let's hold this captain accountable. Look at it, it's all in front of us. No, the warden swept it under the rug, and Sacramento swept it under the rug. That's when it opened my eyes. Like, this corruption goes all the way to the top. I got to get out of here. And that's what ultimately I chose my family over the job. It was intense, man.
That sounds like that was one big hurdle. Were there other hurdles you can recall? And tell us about some of your accomplishments.
Well, there was other hurdles, right? I lost my wife lost her sister during COVID in 2020. When I told the warden, hey, I need some time off, his first response was, bring me verification that she died. And I'm like,
cold-blooded. Yeah.
Cold, heartless, man. Fucking sociopath, narcissistic. But my accomplishments were freaking promoting to sergeant. That was an accomplishment. Promoting to lieutenant, that was another accomplishment. Becoming a T4T, training for trainers, alarm response instructor. I love that, man. I love that. Your boy can't sit still behind a desk. That's probably why I never became a counselor. Crisis response team, CRT, tactical operator 1, tactical operator 2, hostage negotiator certified, and then I would eventually become the commander, the public information officer. It was there was a lot of awards, it was worth it, man, because to be in the CRT, you got to qualify in to even get into those academies, let alone pass the whole tryout process, and it's right up my alley, bro. Like, I like shooting, I like tactical, I like thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
Training.
Yeah. Right on. Very well. And so, if you had any advice for a young officer today considering getting into corrections, what would you say some of the main things they should keep in mind?
Right off the top, man, is have a plan B, C, and D. Right off the top. For them to put all their eggs in one basket, the basket being CDCR as a career, don't do that. Do not do that, because you're going to be asked out. They're literally fired people for no reason, man. Not only if you don't get fired, they just hit some female CO with 10% pay cut for 46 months of loss of pay. So you got to, financially plan for stuff like that. This is my advice, going to the academy and joining the career. Don't believe what your higher ups tell you, meaning verify. Verify with somebody that you trust, verify that is knowledgeable in policy and procedure, and say, hey, man, I was just asked to do this. Was this appropriate? Is this within policy? They'll tell you, if they're a good supervisor. That's the first step. Second is document. Document everything in your little logbook. Make copies, because they make logbooks disappear. So we were being asked to downright policy violations. And I did not learn policy until I became a sergeant. Believe it or not, man. 8 years of CO, I didn't feel that I needed to learn the book, Title 15. Plus, back then, the supervisors had your back. If you screwed up, to slap you on the hand and teach you, hey, kid, fucking idiot, that's not how you do it, right? Like, you messed up here. Oh, shit. But so I learned policy and procedure. And that was a learning experience. Learning, like, oh my goodness, my lieutenants, my captains, my AWs don't know policy. Wow, I've been led by the blind this whole time, right? So, documenting everything. My tactic was, so that I wouldn't ruffle no feathers, I would say, Roger, Captain, I'll do that. Then I would get a pen and write it in the logbook, on such and such date at such and such time, Captain so-and-so asked me to do this, period. So he thinks I just did it willingly, but in fact, it's documented.
The old CYA, cover your
correct. Yeah. That's an advice to a staff member. Like, trust me, you need to do that. That's mandatory. And again, man, you notice how right off the bat, I didn't say, hey, protect yourself against the inmates. Put your back against the wall, keep your head on the swivel. To me, like you said, that was the first threat. And then now let's talk about the inmates. Oh, yeah. Contrary to what the department and the higher ups are trying to tell you, that they're your friends and they're not going to hurt you, we've seen too many officers get hurt over and over again.
So I know you met a lot of gang members in your career, but if you were dealing with let's say a young teen who's just starting to get into the gang lifestyle and hasn't been to prison yet,
Yeah.
as juveniles, especially today, man, they don't do nothing to them. And then pretty soon, they're getting deeper and deeper in the game. And like I said, then pretty soon, man, they got this, Mexican mafia guy tell them to do a pegada, and they're getting out pretty soon. And next thing you know, yeah, they're doing life. What kind of
Life.
advice would you have for those individuals?
I say, look, man, like, hey, what's up? Like, where are you from? Like, what's your story? Where did you grow up at? Right. To kind of build that bridge. And then I'll say, like, where do you see yourself in a couple of years, man, on this path that you're on? Prison. All right. What do you think it's going to be like in there, man? Oh, I got a cousin in there. I got a Theo in there. I got a brother. Okay. Do you actually know what's going on in there, man? Because, trust me, I've seen both sides of the house, and I don't know if quite understand, grasp the concept of you're going to be asked to do things that you don't want to do, right? Hurt people, right? Carry out missions. And when it goes south, they're going to sell you out, man. They're going to throw you under the bus. I mean, they continuously do that, right? So this is me telling them the realities. Like, at the end of the day, I understand you were trained to follow this path, and that's probably the only thing man. But right now, since you have the opportunity, do a shift. Start going this way, and the way you do that is by start hanging out with people that you want to be like, that are successful, not this way, because prison is not successful. And then I would tell them straight up, man, look, I've been through some shit. You may think it's weak to show emotions. You may think it's weak. You always got to prove yourself. No, you don't, man. No, you don't. Right? You don't. The quietest one in the room is always the most dangerous one. You know what I mean? So, like, relax, kid. Relax, man. Trust me. What you think you want, what you're asking for, is not what you really, really want, man. You think the cops are gonna save you? You think the COs? What if you have a lieutenant like me that tells you, hey, man, you got yourself in this mess. You get the fuck out of this mess. Why should I have to fix your problems? And then it'll probably open their eyes, like, holy shit, I can't get no help nowhere.
I don't know, Hector. You sound like you might have made a good correctional counselor, man. That's
Nah,
pretty good
man,
advice.
I can't do
Yeah,
too much paperwork.
yeah,
But yeah, that I
I don't
felt
like paperwork either.
since you gave me that opportunity to voice it like that, yeah, if I could sit down and get through I'm not gonna call him a knucklehead, man, because we're all knuckleheads. Since I've been out for 1 year, I've noticed there's a lot of similarities between young youth with no direction, misdirection, and me and you. We joined the military. We joined law enforcement. These other
You
guys
straightened
growing up
my
in,
ass out. If I hadn't joined, who knows where I've been? I might have been on
yeah,
the other side of the bars.
correct. With these other kids going up in LA and San Diego, the IEOC, like I know we're not making excuses, but that's the truth. And I see that now. Like, every interview, every dude that I've interviewed, they're like, hey, man, this is where I grew up. This is how it was. And there's a pattern right there.
So my last question for you, this is probably the toughest one.
Shoot it. Shoot it.
If you were talking to politicians about some of the changes now that have gone with the laws, the slap on the hand for juveniles, what kind of advice would you have for some of these politicians out there that their stances on crime today?
So, first of all, man, I would never sit down with a politician and try to get them to hear me out, because in my belief system, their mind is set on money, power, and greed. They could care less about inmate reform, inmate staff safety, staff morale. They're not looking at that. They say they are, right, but they're
Looking to get reelected.
yeah, man. And this is for me. I actually did talk to three, whatever they are, senators or congressmen. When I left the department, they gave me 15, 20 minutes of their time on a Zoom call, just like this, man. And I wasn't in this office. I was in the other one with a nice background. And I said, hey, you guys are always on those little committees asking the CDCR for answers as to why everything's messed up. I said, these are the people that are responsible, and this is why. They blew me off, man. They said, we'll call you back. They never called me back. I gave them the answer. Now, administrators for the department, this is what I would say and do. put on a duty belt, go to housing unit 14 and housing unit 15 at Donovan, sit there for 2 weeks straight at the podium, and you tell me what you created. It's a madhouse, man. The food ports are open because the inmates broke all the locks on all the food ports. I had a OGCO tell me that he told the inmate, go through the metal detector. He's like, why? It's like, because I said so. And he looked, somebody cut the electrical cord on the metal detector near the podium with scissors, and that the inmates did that. And it's like little Somalia in there, man. That's dangerous. You can't have food. I remember I walked in there, the lieutenant. All the food ports were open. Inmates sticking their arms out. I'm like, what the hell? How long has it been like this? They're like, oh, a couple months, LT. I'm out of here, man. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I think you're right. The good supervisors, good wardens, good directors, they're not afraid to get out of the office, get out of their ivory tower, and go down there and talk to the troops and see exactly what's going on. A lot of times they say, hey, I'm too busy with policy or this, lawsuit or this, that, and the other. They got to make time. It shows staff they care. The ones that had the respect, I remember, that impressed me is they talked to me like a real person, not like, they were up here and I was down here.
I totally get the rank of warden as far as, man, you got Sacramento, pushing down your neck, breathing down. Hey, we want you to do this, right? You're going to do this. And then you got to deal with the prison problems, which there's a lot of problems in prison. Just be transparent, be honest, man. If you just have a meeting and say, hey, guys, like, hey, man, hey, I'm going to do my best. I'm not going to be a sleazeball, a snake, man, but like, understand what my bosses are breathing down my neck. And then you got to be very careful with the homie hookups as a warden, as a chief deputy warden, because then you start creating those cars, and those cars create problems. And then these cars, they start going to war and then the focus is off of the inmates. And it's like, how can I get you back for you moving me out of my management spot? How can I get you back for, taking my wife? It's like, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. We talk a lot about on the prison gangs, the different cliques, but there's cliques on the inside too. Yeah. I always try to be real careful. Not that I was antisocial or anything, but not to just stay with the same people. Especially if they were being talking negative. They had something they used to call choir practice. When I was a new CO, I used to go after work and go drink at the local bar. But all they would do is complain, and not really about solving a lot of things. Hey, if we talked to our union reps or anything, it wasn't anything really with any positive ends or goals in mind. That's something that I tried to avoid. And when I was a TAC officer at the academy training new recruits, I said, hey, doesn't mean you can't go to, a function now and then, but just don't get caught up in that, because alcoholism is very, very much rampant in the corrections business. We talk a lot about a lot of gangsters and convicts self-medicating with drugs. A lot of cops and corrections do that with alcohol.
Yeah, prior to leaving the department, I had a small circle of people I could trust. And when I say trust, and I say small, it's like, okay, I know that this guy is not going to fold on me. This guy is not going to make shit up. This guy's not going to, very, very select few, man. And think about it, a big department, it's sad.
Got you. Yep. Always want to have good backup and watch your back. Most definitely. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we go today, sir?
No, I just think it's funny, man, because we talked a lot about administration, and we didn't really intend to do that, but it's kind of where it took us, gangsters, politicians, and but I think we have similar styles, man. But you're like the older version of me. You're the OG. You're the one that went before me, and I have mad respect for that, because the resources back then are, old school C files. You actually had to walk to the records and pull those big giant C files. Me, I was just nosy lieutenant on the computer, just typing away, man. A lot easier for me. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, my hat's off to you.
Okay, well, thank you, for coming on the show, and we'll put up your show here at the end. People want to watch your podcast. I can't imagine anybody who hasn't seen it yet, but in case you don't know about Hector Bravo and watch his show, That Prison Guard, you need to check it out. Thank you again, sir, for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right, take care.